It's a question that's dominated the gun world, and it's a question that's still debated to this day. What gun would you choose for the zombie apocalypse? Throughout the years, many people have discussed what weapons they would use in a zombie apocalypse. Some good, and most bad. Well, in SCP-5K, you can prove that your choice is the best one. SCP-5K takes place in a fictional world where a secret organization has decided the human race needs to be eradicated to ensure the prosperity of Earth. I wonder why. They've decided to go about this by unleashing all sorts of monsters into the wild. Including, you guessed it, zombies. Your job in this game is to take up arms against these monsters and destroy them all. In this video, I'm talking about 5 of the weapon types I use the most in SCP-5K. And in the vein of those high school hallway discussions I'm sure you all had, my choices are right, and yours are wrong. First up is the venerable 9mm handgun. Modern media has showcased handguns to be a staple of fighting the undead. But in SCP, it's somewhat of a different story. The zombies in SCP like to gather in hordes, and are most dangerous up close. It makes sense to have a firearm that has a larger mag capacity and is effective at longer range. These are 2 traits that a 9mm handgun generally does not have. Full-size 9mm handguns generally hold between 15 to 20 rounds, and are typically used as close-range weapons. Additionally, handgun calibers are not usually as powerful as rifle rounds. While this isn't as relevant when talking about human targets, it absolutely matters when it comes to animals and supernatural creatures. Other than some revolvers, handguns aren't typically used for hunting or dispatching larger animals. But despite all these shortcomings, should a 9mm handgun be a part of your paranormal slaying loadout? I think so. In a military setting, a handgun is usually carried as a backup, and is rarely used as a primary weapon. Most handguns are never even used for their intended purpose, but in a scenario where you have to burn through multiple magazines fighting off the undead, a backup handgun can very well be the difference between life or death. As a side note, I really like how the guns are modeled and animated in this game. They just look good. Moving on to another staple of a zombie loadout, we have the shotgun. Perhaps more than any other firearm, shotguns have become synonymous with zombie slaying. But how useful are they against the monsters of SCP? Shotguns are perhaps the most versatile type of firearm due to the large variety of ammunition it can take. From less lethal rounds, birdshot, and slugs, it almost seems like there's a round for every scenario. But for zombie killing, nothing beats good old buckshot. Buckshot is a type of shotgun ammunition that fires between 8 to 18 lead pellets. It's very powerful ammunition. As the name implies, yes, it can take down a deer, so it has no issues against humans or equivalents. As a wise man once said,
"Shotguns at the right range with the right load will physically remove a chunk of shit off your opponent and throw that shit on the floor."
Now that's all well and good, but the question is, does this violence mean shotguns are more effective at stopping threats? Perhaps, but shotguns have their disadvantages. They typically have higher recoil and hold less ammunition compared to semi-auto rifles. However, this violence is quite useful in SCP-5K. See, zombies run at you on foot, and attack you with their arms. A shotgun has the potential to completely blow off these limbs. While it's difficult to purposely aim for these limbs, there's a good chance of hitting them inadvertently. With a handgun or rifle, a shot to the limb doesn't do much to stop a zombie. But with buckshot, there's a chance of forcibly removing the limb and buying you more time to escape. This becomes even more evident when you face off against other types of monsters that are more armored. The power of a shotgun becomes useful in taking them down, so shotguns are always a solid choice. The most popular zombie survival guide is the Zombie Survival Guide by Max Brooks. Of course, it has a section on weapons, and in it, he completely trashes the M16A1. He characterizes it as a fragile, overcomplicated weapon, prone to failure, and something that will fall apart with any hard use. In contrast, he praises the AK as a reliable combat weapon, and one of the best choices for fighting zombies. These discussions were a reflection of the times, about the early 2000s. For some reason, many discussions about the ideal zombie apocalypse loadout devolved into arguments over whether the AR-15 or AK-47 was a better rifle. Now, there is some truth to the statement that the M16A1 had problems, but modern AR-15 platforms, including the newer M16A4, have proven themselves to be very reliable and exceptionally accurate. The 5.56x45 ammo it fires is light, meaning you can carry more 5.56 than other types of ammo, and because of how light it is, the round tends to tumble and yaw when impacting tissue, causing much more damage than the size of the round would suggest. The AR-15, when built properly, is also a very accurate weapon. Part of this is due to how it works. It uses what's called a direct impingement system. It's a very light recoiling system, meaning it's easier to put rounds on target with the AR-15. The supposed downside is that it's a dirtier system compared to other rifles, since dirty gas from the fired rounds ends up in the chamber. But in practice, AR-15s have proven to be reliable weapons, despite that they do get dirty quicker. So because it's reliable and accurate, I think the AR-15 would be a great choice for the zombie apocalypse. It's certainly a great choice in SCP, and has no issue taking down whatever eldritch horrors I've encountered. On the other hand, is the AK platform. The AK has a reputation for being a rugged, reliable weapon that will never malfunction. This is kind of true. Reputable AKs from countries like Russia, China, and Bulgaria are usually the indestructible tanks people think all AKs are. However, when an AK isn't assembled properly, or uses subpar materials, they absolutely can fail. AKs are generally chambered in the Russian 5.45x39 or 7.62x39 round. Yes, there are other calibers AKs fire, but they aren't nearly as common as the Russian rounds. Both rounds are very effective, and are more than capable of taking down a human-sized target, like a zombie. 5.45x39 is a smaller round similar to 5.56 that is effective to about 600 meters and also tumbles when impacting organic matter, exponentially increasing the damage it does to tissue. In contrast, 7.62x39 is a heavier round that does not travel as fast or go as far, but is a heavy-hitting round within its effective range. In SCP, 7.62x39 is one of the few rifle rounds capable of dismemberment, so it's my preferred AK round in SCP, but both work well. A zombie with no hands or feet can't kill you, so remember, dismemberment saves lives. AKs use what's known as a long-stroke gas piston system. It's a very reliable system that runs cleaner than a direct impingement system, since dirty gas from the fired round does not reach the chamber. However, there are two downsides to this system. The long piston makes the gun very front-heavy, and contributes to more felt recoil, but these downsides are relatively minor compared to the benefit of a reliable system. AKs have been made for so long that other countries have taken from its design. The SIG 5.53 rifle is for all intents and purposes a Swiss-made AK chambered in 5.56, so obviously, it's a very nice rifle. The Israeli Galil Ace is a long-stroke piston rifle also chambered in 5.56, and takes a number of design cues from the AK. As the old saying goes, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. The moral of the story is that both the AR-15 and AK are great rifle choices, and they'd likely both do well in a zombie apocalypse setting. Arguing over which one would be more effective is generally pointless, though it can be entertaining. However, there's one type of rifle I think gets an undeserved amount of hate. Bullpup rifles are a unique firearm that in theory combine the effectiveness of a longer barrel while keeping the rifle relatively compact. Any round will be more effective fired out of a longer barrel, and everyone appreciates a lighter, more compact rifle. So why do bullpups attract so much disdain? Bullpup rifles are designed so the action of the weapon is behind the trigger. This means that the barrel runs through the entire length of the gun, retaining the longer barrel length while keeping the overall length of the rifle short. As an example, the bullpup rifle on the right has a 16-inch barrel, while the AR-15 on the left has a 10.3-inch barrel. However, the bullpup rifle is actually a little shorter than the AR-15. This sounds great on paper, so what are the downsides? Well, having the mag well behind the trigger and much closer to the body presents a few problems. Manipulating the rifle becomes much more awkward, though this can be alleviated with practice. More importantly, the magazine can snag on your gear, which is a real issue, especially if you need to run away from zombies. Additionally, the distance between the trigger and the action means that there needs to be a linkage system between the trigger and sear. This means that bullpup triggers are generally heavier and cannot be fired as fast as conventional rifle triggers. Finally, some people think that the benefits of a longer barrel aren't significant enough to justify the downsides. A bullet traveling through a longer barrel will travel faster and farther, but isn't necessarily more accurate than one shot from a shorter barrel. For many, this makes a bullpup pointless. Having a faster traveling bullet isn't much of a difference compared to a slightly slower bullet in close quarters. And a speedier bullet doesn't matter if a bullpup isn't any more accurate than a conventional rifle. But with that said, I think a bullpup would be a solid choice for the zombie apocalypse. Why? To explain, let's talk about 5.56 again. Remember how I said earlier that the round tumbles and yaws as it travels through organic matter? Well, this effect only really happens when the bullet is traveling at a certain velocity threshold, about 2,900 feet per second or above. In an AR-15, this is achieved with a 14.5-inch barrel, or in other words, an M4A1. With a bullpup, such as this Tavor X95, it has a 16-inch barrel. This rifle fires rounds at about 3,000 feet per second. If this sounds like I'm repeating myself, I am. But while the difference in velocity might not matter up close against a human enemy, it absolutely matters when facing zombies. Remember, dismemberment saves lives, and you'll certainly be able to do that with a faster traveling bullet. And of course, zombies love to get in close. A shorter rifle like a bullpup will ensure you can still fire your weapon without it being shoved out of the way. Bullpups are great weapons, and they're certainly useful in SCP. I think people need to evaluate the benefits of bullpups before dismissing them as obsolete. So, those are my most used weapons in SCP-5K. There are a lot more guns than what I've covered here. If you're interested in trying them out, click the link in the description to get SCP-5K yourself. And if you do, let me know below what your favorite weapons are to use.